Well, hi, my name is Darryl Davis. For over 35 years, I've been in the real estate space, either as a sales professional, as a manager of a real estate company, but most of the time has now been training and coaching real estate professionals on how to be more effective at coaching buyers and sellers in real estate. And as a matter of fact, I've written a best-selling book with McGraw-Hill Publishing, How to Become Power Agent Real Estate, which made my mother very proud. Recently, the reason for this recording is because recently we've had some major announcement in the real estate space. There was a lawsuit and litigation and settlement, and so we've been helping real estate professionals to navigate the change. So there was some big announcement about it, and so we've been helping them through that. But I thought, because of my commitment to the industry and what I'm hearing on the streets and seeing the inaccurate news that's being put out there about this, I thought it might be prudent to set the record straight for anybody who's not in the real estate space. That's for you. To explain it. If you're a homeowner and you're thinking about selling and working with an agent, or if you're a buyer looking to buy a house, like for you, you might have heard about this because it's upfront for you and you might have some questions. So this is for you. This recording is for you, as I affectionately refer to the civilian. So the first thing I'd like to share with you, and I hope this helps you in what I'm going to share with you, is the first is, what is the lawsuit? What was it about? Well, it was a antitrust lawsuit, and I'm sure you know what that is, antitrust. But just to make sure we're on the same page, when competing companies get together and say, "Hey, we're gonna let's all charge the same amount of money for something." That way, if we all charge the same amount, we want to raise and charge more, we'll do it together, and that way the customer will be forced to pay for it because they won't have any other place to go. So that's the antitrust law is designed to prevent that, to keep competition. So this suit against the National Association of Realtors and a lot of real estate brokers was about an antitrust violation, which I will explain what it is. I wanted you to meet the law firm that initiated this lawsuit. When I found out about this firm, I was actually kind of shocked. There was a movie, I don't know if you remember the movie called The Firm with Tom Cruise in it, and they had this huge building and hundreds of employees, and I thought that's what I was going to find, and nope, it was just these four gentlemen that brought this lawsuit. But let me tell you what this suit was not about. So I mentioned it was about antitrust. It really was not about making the industry better for buyers and sellers. There wasn't any thought or strategy from the plaintiff's side to say, all right, we want to make the industry better, and here's that plan. So that was not there at all. There was nothing about getting the plaintiff's money back, although they kind of disguised it as that, but you'll see what I mean in a minute. The agents broke the law by hiding info, bad contracts, lies, so it wasn't about any of that. There was no wrongdoing of lies and manipulation at all. That wasn't what this was. The sellers lost value in the homes. It's not like a bunch of homeowners lost value, and so this law firm said, let's help and get their money back, or that buyers overpaid for their house. So it wasn't any of that. It was really about one thing. It was one thing, which I'll have you be the judge of what that one thing might be. Again, it's about the antitrust is what it was, the premise of it. But they did find something that validated the antitrust language. And that's where we, as the industry, was our weakness, was this one thing that I'll show you. But let's go back to the law firm that was very successful. If you were to take all of the settlements that they have up to date, the plaintiff's attorney's fees come to $256 million as of the recording of this. And the reason why I say as of the recording, because they still carved out a section of people in the industry that they want to go after. And there's some other suits that they're still messing with. So far, the big tally for them is 256. And the tally so far for the homeowners is coming to about 5,600, which actually could go down more, which is an interesting concept when you think about this, that as more homeowners get that little card in the mail saying, hey, do you want to join the lawsuit? That pool of money keeps getting divided by more people. So right now this is based on about 5,000 homeowners. So once it's 6,000 or 7,000, that money is going to keep going down. But what I find is interesting is the attorney's contingent fee is not. That they cut it off the top. So good for them. Just so you can see too the progression of dates, the October 31st, the Catchmark, the law firm I just pointed out to, they actually won the jurors in the case. They decided that the award should be $1.78 billion, which is huge. November, after that, dozens of copycat lawsuits started to emerge. And so you see all these ads. And then in December, the judge granted the preliminary for the Franchise Anywhere, the corporation Remax. Anyway, the numbers are there, Keller Williams. So they settled these amounts. And then March, this is the interesting thing, Catchmark settled for $418 million with NAR. And now he's vowed he's going after Warren Buffett's company, which is Home Services, and he wants $4.7 billion. The part that I'd like you as a civilian to, as a homeowner, as a buyer, what I want to point out to you is if that $1.78 billion that they won, the Catchmark settled for $400 million. Now, I find that really interesting. Like if you won a lottery ticket for $1.78 billion, would you say, I'll take the money over time or I'll take one lump sum? You know how they do that? But they would have gotten, but that's $400 million. That's a big reduction. And plus, on top of that, it's over a few years. So it's not even one check. A lot of people are saying they think the reason why Catchmark settled from almost $2 billion all the way down to $400 million is because NAR was planning to appeal it, and he probably would have lost in the appeal, which is a shame. But the association wanted to get past this for the real estate industry, for buyers, for sellers, and not have this litigation hanging over years. So they felt it was more prudent to just settle. Now, so what is it about? I would say that the attorneys were really motivated by not changing the industry, but by getting that award is what I think. But hey, listen, this is how it is. This is our judicial system. This is how it works, and it's better than any other country. So I'll take it. But let me tell you why, or show you why. What the one reason for the whole lawsuit, what it was. This is a copy of an MLS form. Yours, where you're from, may look different because there's several different national multiple listing services. This just happens to be from one. They all look different. But anyway, this was the reason for the antitrust violation. It's this little thing here at the bottom where the real estate agents, when you would hire, so I'm going to talk to the homeowners now. When you're a homeowner and you hire a real estate professional and they list your property, when you hire them, there's a commission amount that you agreed to with the agent. And whatever that fee was, whether it's 6 or 7 or 10 or 2, because it is negotiable, whatever fee you agreed to, then that listing agent, as an incentive to all the other agents, they would put out a selling commission. In this example, was 2. So if I use this as an example, maybe the homeowner listed for 4%, and that agent's paying out 2, or they listed at 5 and they're paying out 2, but they're paying out 2. Now, if as a homeowner, I'm sure you would agree, well, that makes sense, right? If another agent brings a buyer, let's pay them. I mean, when you think about it, that's kind of what a homeowner does when they try to do it on their own. They'll say, hey, if you bring me a buyer, I'll pay you X amount. What's the problem here? You should reward people if they bring a buyer and sell it. Well, here was the snafu. Now, we've been doing this for decades, and it's worked really well for homeowners, and it's worked. But Ketchmark, the attorney, saw an opportunity, and I guess kudos for him. You see, by offering the same percentage to every agent in the MLS system, regardless of where the agent works, some work at ABC, some work at XYZ, doesn't matter. So regardless of the agent's experience, regardless how skilled they are, yada, 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 because it was the same amount to all real estate companies, that was price fixing. Now, we could argue that doesn't make sense or what, but Ketchmark won that argument, and that's where we are. Now, how did he win that argument? Well, let me share that with you. So we have Kate Johnson. She was the NAR chief legal officer, and she was in the trial, and she taught me something very interesting. She said that when they went through the process of selecting this jury, they started with 80 jurors. Now, they didn't start with 8 million, or it was just 80, right? Now, those 80 were dwindled down to 8. Now, these 8 jurors are the ones that decided on the $1.78 billion. Now, that gives me pause, right? When you think about, wow, like it wasn't 800 million people on the planet, or 80 million, or 8 million, or 8,000. It wasn't even 80. It was only 8 people to decide to what we're going to do on this real estate thing. And they made a decision that was kind of huge, $1.78 billion. But here's the sad thing about that, is that those 8 jurors that made that decision, only 2 of them have ever worked with a real estate agent. The other 2, yes, they were homeowners, but they never listed and sold or never worked with an agent. And 4, for crying out loud, don't even own a home. They're renters. So you had 6 out of 8 people never worked with a real estate agent before. That's like asking somebody to judge a chess match, but that judge has never played chess, has never attended a chess match, doesn't really know the intricacies or the rules of the game called chess, but yet they're being asked to judge the players of the game. That's essentially what happened. Now, I like to think our judicial system is the best in the whole world, but we do know that from time to time, they get it wrong. And I think this was one of those times, hence why Ketchmark is taking the money and run and negotiated down a much lower price. Now, it's also possible, just so you know how class action works, in case you're not familiar, is once there is a decision, a class actions suit, and all the other attorneys say, wow, look, here's a business model for us, and let's copy it. And that's why they're called copycat lawsuits, because Ketchmark did all the hard work, which has paved the way for other attorneys. It's kind of like, I'm sure you might have seen those commercials about the lung cancer victims, or the one that I see quite often is Camp Lejeune. What happened that these 2 cases, class action lawsuits, they won, and all of a sudden now attorneys are called copycatting that initial win. So that's why you might see on the internet perhaps some ads saying, hey, did you ever work with a realtor to buy or sell a home? If you have, you may have been charged excessive commission. See if you're entitled to compensation. The way this ad reads, you fill it out, a form, yes, my name is this, and then that law firm, which they're disguising themselves as the consumer protection rights in that ad, that's really odd to me. So maybe it's a marketing thing to make it sound like it's consumer friendly. But those attorneys are going to be the ones that are actually winning a lot of money, not the homeowners. But So what'll happen is that'll attract people to fill out a form and say, all right, we got one, we got two, we got three. So once that law firm gets enough people where it's going to be a juicy payday for them, then they file, you see. Now, another question, a common question that's coming up is I heard that commissions are negotiable and I don't have to pay 6%. Said another way, some people said that they thought it wasn't negotiable, that some homeowners or buyers thought, I thought you guys just always charge 6 and that's like some kind of federal law. It could look that way, but real estate commissions have always been negotiable between companies. The reason why it might look like it's not, it's similar to this. Like where I am from, Wading River, Long Island, New York, we have 4 pizzerias, which is a lot for the small town that I live in. Actually, there's a 5th. I just couldn't fit it on the screen. But anyway, so these 4, if you look at their pizza, it's, $22, $20, $22, $19.95, which is basically $20. So they're all around that $20 range, $20 to $22. Now, did these pizzerias get in a room and say, hey, listen, we're going to charge the same amount of money? Of course not. If they did, they would be breaking the antitrust laws. It looks like that could be the case, but what happens, as you know, you're smart, that business people, they look at their competition and they price. That's the whole concept of not price fixing, is to try and maybe undercut your competitor a little bit so you get more customers. The same thing, like if you think about franchises, like when you go to this is interesting. When you have 2 McDonald's in your town, McDonald's Corporation can't tell every store this is how much you charge for a hamburger. But it kind of looks like it does, because if you go to this McDonald's that's owned by some guy and you go to this McDonald's that's owned by some lady, and they're charging the same for the hamburgers, you would think that's coming from Mickey D's in the corporate. It's not. If they did, that would be against the law. It's about what the market is bearing, right? So in real estate, it's the same exact thing. Real estate agents, the fees are negotiable between companies. So if you talk to ABC Real Estate Professional, that company is going to say, this is our fee, what we charge, and we don't negotiate with us. There's another company, well, we charge less and we don't negotiate. So each individual brokerage or agent will set a standard of what works for them to leave their family to help buyers and sellers. So that may not be negotiable, but the industry, it is. You can find a real estate broker that'll charge 10% all the way down to $395 a flat fee. So that's the range. So it's quite flexible. You hire based on skill and ability anyway. I heard another question is I heard that NAR has cut their standard 6% commission, and I really need to wait till I show you the news that I'm sure you've seen on how wrong they're getting it. First of all, there is no standard, as I just said. There's no national federal commission, and it's 6%. Part of the reason why we keep hearing 6 or 5 is because the news, they keep referencing when they write an article about, should I hire a real estate agent and pay a 6% commission? So even articles that are just commenting about buying and selling real estate, they'll plug that number in, usually 5 or 6. When I was an agent, the commissions were, you'd see the articles about 7s. So now but here's to show you the commission since 1991. This is the United States national average commission. And as you can tell, it's been, with the exception of a bump that we had just before the bubble busted. So that's the trend. You'll see nationally our commission average has been going down. But here is the news that really has been messing things up. Realtors Group agrees to cut commissions and landmark $418 million settlement. Realtor agrees to cut. You see that black one there, CBS? National Association of Realtors to cut commissions. New York Times, powerful realtor group, that's NAR, National Association of Realtors, agrees to slash commissions. Another one, realtors agree 6% commission cut. Now, here is see, this is really fun bait clicks things like the algorithms and social media. This is great. The newspapers are loving this. New York Times and CBS. And by the way, I am not against the news, but boy, oh boy, these news guys have gotten it wrong simply because, so you got to be careful not to believe everything you read, because when they say realtors cut the commission, National Association of Realtors cut, why it's so wrong is that the National Association of Realtors, in its over 100 and some odd years of being in existence, has never charged a commission. The National Association of Realtors has never charged a commission, so there's no commission to cut. And that's not what the settlement said anyway. I'll show you what the settlement said. The National Association of Realtors is like any association, like the AAA, AARP, National Automobile Dealers Association, Rifle Association, Education Association, the Teamsters. Associations don't make their money based on the individual business. So, for example, the National Automobile Dealers Association, they make their revenue from dues. Every time a dealer sells a car, they don't get a piece of that sale. The AAA does not get a piece every time I order a tow truck. AARP does not get more money every year I get older. They make their money from dues. That's it. And they might have events and they sell support material. So the National Association of Realtors, same thing. That this 6% commission that we've seen advertised, they never got a piece of that. They never taught about that. Agents decide themselves, brokers decide themselves, just like the automobile industry and every other. You watching this, you might belong to an association, the teachers association, whatever profession you're in, you very well may belong to an association. Do they make money based on sales? Of course not. So all of that news really is just confusing people. Okay, now, here's the next thing we'll go to, is aren't commissions in the USA higher than anywhere else in the world? And that's why NAR cut their fee. Well, once again, as we said, NAR never charges a fee. It's each individual agent. There is no national fixed amount. I already told you that you can look online and just Google real estate company, or I want to list my house. I promise you, you will find the brokers that will charge $300 to sell your house, all the way up to 10%. You'll see it just by Googling it. Okay, but anyway, let's go back to the real question. Aren't commissions in the U.S. higher than anywhere else in the world? See, that's a no. Maybe. I'll show you why. One of the countries that Ketchmark touted, which did stick in the news, and that's why maybe you might have heard this, don't we charge more than other parts of the world? It's because of a little propaganda when Michael Ketchmark, and by the way, I have nothing against this attorney. I give him kudos. He must have done an incredible job in that courtroom to convince those 8 people in a jury box that realtors should pay $1.78 billion. But in any event, that takes some talent. So he did a great job. Anyway, Australia agents, he referenced that in his court case, and he talked about it in the news. The news picked it up. Yeah, Australia is a lot less, about half from that 6 that we keep hearing it about. But here's the thing that Michael did not talk about, and I wished our defending attorneys would have said this to the jurors, that the commission structure and sharing practices are quite different in Australia. So just to compare the United States of America to Australia or to any other country, that doesn't even make sense to me. I mean, they have royalty, we have it's the economy, the whole thing is different. You know, when you touch one piece of an economy, it impacts the others. So real estate here in the U.S., the way we do what we do impacts the whole economy in the United States. And so to just change this little piece here, it affects everything. So it's apples to oranges. But I'm going to really show you, which blows my mind, this. First, in Australia, 40% of homes aren't sold the way we do here in the U.S. They're sold through auctions where people, imagine people coming to your front lawn and there's an agent out there screaming and people are throwing numbers. That's how they do it 40% of the time. So that's different. This is the most important thing that he did not mention. The marketing expenses are paid in advance by the homeowner. So I really want you to hear this. This is really important, I think, because we've been telling our coaching students to maybe start offering this then. What they do in Australia is you'll go on a listing, an agent will talk to a homeowner and say, Mr. or Ms. Hanna, if you want to hire me, my fee is 2% or 3%. Plus, I'll need you to pay for the marketing in advance. So based on the marketing on your house, we're going to put it on MLS. We're going to put a yard sign on it. We're going to do a couple of auctions. We've got to advertise about the auction. We'll do a mailing to the neighbors. So there's all this marketing, and the bill's going to come to $7,500. We like to have cushion in my company, so I'll need you to cut a check now for $10,000, and we'll get going and put your house up for sale. Now, here's the thing. So the homeowner has to cut a check at the listing appointment for $10,000. And if the house doesn't sell, they don't get that money back because that's money spent on the expenses. So I've been telling our coaching students, well, if a homeowner mentions that, then give them that choice. Give them the choice that you'll charge 3% plus $10,000 in marketing expenses. You and I both know I would much rather pay nothing as a homeowner up front. I'll pay for performance. You make the investment agent. You spend your 10 grand. If you perform well and you hit the number that we agreed to that I want to sell my house for, then I'll be happy to give you a 6% or 5% or 7% or whatever you agreed to. You see, so here's how it works. Risk and reward. The more risk that a real estate office or agent needs to take, that would influence what they charge. You want to have them charge less, reduce the risk by you paying the expenses up front. But again, they did not mention that in the court case, so the jurors didn't know that. Let's just take a look at Great Britain. Same thing. They're even less on the 1%, but they can go up as 3%. But here's interesting. In Great Britain, there's no MLS. That's number one. Can you imagine us not having MLS here in the States? Great Britain agents, negotiators are salaried with small bonuses. So really that money is going to the office, not to the agent. The agent is paid a salary. The agents don't even have to be licensed. So the quality you're getting in Great Britain is not here in the U.S. And by the way, just in case people forgot, we used to be part of Great Britain. The United States of America, we broke from those folks. So to look at their model would not make sense either. Unlike the U.S., there's no cooperation amongst agents. And same thing, in addition to that 3.6%, the homeowner pays thousands of dollars on a listing appointment. And then, of course, you've got Germany. It's even worse. I shouldn't even show you this, but here's the problem. In Germany, it's not common to have an MLS. The representation's different. And again, real estate is considered more prestigious here. And there you've got to also pay expenses in advance. So I guess when you look at it, I think when you look at the United States model, it's such a safe bet for a homeowner. I mean, just think about it. When you hire a real estate professional, that real estate professional is going to use their personal money, the money that they use to feed their family and to support themselves. They're going to make an investment in you as the homeowner to try and do the job that you're asking them to do, which is to sell your house at a price that the market says it's worth. I think this is a great partnership, and I do believe we are the envy. Whenever we have conventions here in the United States, and agents from all over the world, Germany, if even Switzerland, I mean, all over the world comes to the annual conference of the National Association of Realtors, and they always are trying to figure out how do we do it here in the U.S. and how can we bring it back to our country. They're looking to copy us because it works. Okay, here's the next question. You have to admit that you folks are paid a lot. And so this is, again, for both buyers and sellers of real estate. I'd like to show you how it works. And I'm going to use a price of $500,000 at 6% as an example, so you can see actually how these commissions are broken down. So when we take that 6%, which comes out to 30,000, and again, it could be a 7, it could be a 5 or 4. So, but using that popular advertised in the news number of 6, that 30 usually gets split equally, and it may not be equally, but for the most part, it's equal. The listing office would take more, and the selling off, would take 50% in the other. But in some cases, the listing office could take a little bit more, and the selling office gets less. It depends on the agent and the market and et cetera. But we're going to go with 50-50, 15 and 15,000. Now, when you take that 15,000, that gets divided between the agent and the broker. Now, most real estate companies, the agent gets a little bit more than 50%. Some, could be 55, it could be 90. So I went kind of in between. So we took the 5,000 goes to the broker, and then 10,000 goes to the agent. Now the broker takes that and they pay their rent, their insurance, and all the other stuff. As you can tell, it's not looking like a lot of money anymore. And because we're just talking about the one side, the other side, it's going to duplicate this. So there'll be 2 offices, 2 brokers, right? By the way, in the real estate industry, we kind of joke, the reason why brokers are called brokers is because they're broker. And now the 10,000 for the agent, well, because they're not salaried, what happens with real estate professionals, unlike people who get a paycheck, you know, if you get a paycheck, you know your check is X amount, and then you'll see the breakdown that there's FICA and New York or your state, and there's all these taxes that come out, yeah? In real estate salespeople are not employees. They're considered independent contractors or entrepreneurs, you know, business owners. And so all of their revenue that they take in, they have to pay tax on that, and it can be quite costly. So we just did 20% here. It could be more. It depends on their tax bracket. So I took $2,000 out of the 10, plus I took only $3,000 out to cover the marketing expenses for the homeowner, the advertising, the open houses, the mailings. It could be more. So now that 10,000 is now down to 5, and then from that 5, they have their insurance, their car expenses, marketing, dues, and training. So when you really look at it, the number gets really down to the individual agent that you're talking to. It's not a ton of money. Unfortunately, those millionaire agent reality television shows, they really shouldn't call those reality television shows reality, because it's really not reality. There's a lot of behind this staging on that. Now, that's not to say that those agents are not very successful, driving around in their limos and stuff. But let me tell you, that's not the real estate profession. As a matter of fact, according to USA News, the average real estate professional, and this is based on 2021 numbers, is around $48,000. If you were to go to the U.S. Bureau of Statistics, based on their most recent publication, it comes out to $49,000, so just under $50,000. So $50,000 is the average wage or income for a real estate professional. And by the way, just again, that's not the net number, that's their gross number. From that $50,000, they are spending money on their clients, their marketing, their dues, their advertising. Many have said, when you really think about what an individual agent winds up netting after all of their business expenses. They would actually make more money if they worked at McDonald's. A lot of people have said that. Why would an agent be an agent? Because they do have a calling to make a difference. They do believe that this profession is the most important profession because everything evolves around real estate. And it's a way to make a difference in people's lives. An agent will tell you, most agents will tell you that they get such a joy when they see that buyer smile because they found their home. Real estate agents don't look at it as selling houses. They look at it as creating memories for people because that's where the love is. It's in the home. I know that sounds a little woo-woo, but if you really talk to agents, that's really the motivation of many of them, if not most of them, getting into the profession. What we see on those reality television shows about making deals and making millions and putting it together, that's television. That keeps people watching. So just to summarize that part of it, when people say agents are paid, I always tell my students to remind people that agents are not paid anything, they actually earn. And why I say that, the distinction is somebody who's paid is they're an employee for a company, and that company is going to pay them a salary that they agreed to. Excuse me, that salary, even if the person doesn't feel like working that day, if they're not really great at their job that day. I remember checking into a hotel once, and my goodness, that woman at the counter, she was not in a good mood, and she didn't care she was in a good, and the customer service training that she might have had, she forgot it was just a really horrible experience, and I tried to make her smile, and she was having none of it. She was committed to being miserable. And here's the thing about that particular person. If I had to give her a commission on something, to buy something from her, I wouldn't. But she's not on commission. She's getting a paycheck. And even if her performance is bad, she still gets a paycheck. For a real estate professional, if their performance is bad, they get nothing. They are paid based on their performance and the work that they do and the skill that they have. Agents do not receive health insurance. They can work 3 to 9 months with no income, but yet they still have to pay for their expenses. They don't have consistent income. It goes up and down. It's very stressful for them. They have to pay their own marketing expenses, their own training expenses for the homeowner, that there's no guarantee that that house sells. They're out of that money. They could spend hours, days, weeks, months with a buyer, and that buyer decides to not buy or to buy from somebody else. And here's the last thing I like to say when it comes to homeowners. If homeowners didn't benefit from agents, real estate agents would not be so integral to the real estate transaction and to the industry. Okay, so will this lawsuit affect the value of my home? So before I actually address that question, let me clarify what the actual settlement was between the plaintiff and the National Association of Realtors. Here's what the agreement is. I mean, there are a few things in it, but the things that affect you as a homeowner or as a buyer, it's only 2 things. One is, if you remember earlier, I said what was the antitrust violation is putting the selling broker's commission on the MLS form. That was one of the things agreed to, that we are going to take off as an industry the selling broker's commission, which obviously creates some challenges because how is the buyer's agent, that other half of the transaction, how are they going to get paid? And so the industry is working through some mechanisms, and we will. So we're not worried about that because we know we can fix that. The listing agent has to be paid, obviously. The selling agent, so everybody has to get paid, and the buyers have to be happy. So as an industry, we're working through that, and it'll be fine. The second agreement, part of the agreement was that the National Association of Realtors agreed that we would not show a buyer a house unless that buyer has a buyer agency agreement, that they are clear that they're hiring this agent. Here's what the agent's going to do, and here's what the fee the agent is asking to get paid. So I'll talk more about that part of it, but those are the 2 settlement things that impact you, the the civilian, the buyer seller in real estate. But going back to now, this question, will this lawsuit affect the value of my home? It won't, because the commission that agents charge never impacted the value of a home anyway. Another misconception out there that, let me just address that. A lot of the news are saying because of this slashing of commissions, which again, that was not part of the settlement at all. I just told you what it was. We would stop putting the selling commission on the MLS form, and the buyer has to make a choice of which agent they want to work with and make sure there's an agreement between the agent and the buyer. That's it. There was no slashing of a number because there was no number to slash, because I covered that already. But people are writing saying this should help bring prices down. Real estate prices have been going up for over 100 years because real estate goes up, period. The value of real estate goes up, like milk goes up. And, Coca-Cola, remember on the movies, it was like a nickel. Things go up, but real estate has proven to be the best. The commission has, the real estate commission, if anything, has been going down since 1981, but real estate prices have been going up. It has nothing to do with the commission. So let me just clarify this even further. In every thing that's being sold, there's two prices. There's the private price and there's the business price. So if you look at cars, boats, furniture, somebody can sell it privately. You'll see it on Marketplace, Facebook Marketplace. People are selling their furniture. They're selling their tchotchkes, their china, their cars. Well, you can take a car or a boat or any of those items, and when you put it into a business that's backing that item, the price is more. And because it's more valuable for people, you see. So if you were to go to Kelley Blue Book, for example, and you pretend you're buying a car, you're going to see for the same exact car, Kelley Blue Book will show you two prices. There's the for sale by, there would be the person selling it themselves, and then there would be the one being sold by a dealership. And you'll see the price being less for the person selling privately. Why? Because there's more risk in buying it. But most things are sold through a business, and the value of that item is based on what people say the value is, not because the business has a commission built into it or something. So going back to this answer, the only way that this lawsuit could impact your price is if the buyers have to now pay a commission to their agent. If a buyer has $30,000 to buy a house, and this settlement now says in order for a buyer to buy a house through a real estate agent, a realtor, they must actually sign a real estate agreement, buyer's agency agreement with that agent, and that agent's going to get paid. Well, therefore, if that agent says my fee is 3% and a home buyer is buying a house for $500,000 at 3%, that buyer's got to cut a check for $15,000. Now, if they have to cut a check for $15,000 to buy this house, financially, do you think that would impact that buyer? Absolutely. And so what happens, if you look at when you look at mortgages and interest rates, when interest rates go up, the buying power of a buyer goes down. The more expenses a buyer has in purchasing a house, it shrinks their price range and therefore could put pressure on homeowners to come down in their price to help with the burden. So that's the only way it'll impact the price of your home. This is why most homeowners are saying, well, that doesn't make sense. I'm going to do what's been doing for over 100 years. I'm going to still pay the selling agent's commission, and just consider it the whole package part of doing business to sell my house. Look at it as incentives. Some homeowners offer incentives like, hey, if you buy my house, I'll give you a Tesla, or I'll give you the furniture can stay, or I'll give you a seller's concession, or I'll cover your buyer agent's fee that you're responsible for. And I think that's what's going to happen. Most homeowners are making that wise choice. I heard I do not have to pay the buyer agent's fee. Well, I kind of covered that already. You really don't as a homeowner, but here's what I can tell you. As a homeowner, if you don't pay the fee, it could impact your sales price in a negative way. So let me show you. This is the old model and how it was. You have you as the seller, and then you have you as the buyer, depending on, and the buyer is going to have an agent that's called the selling agent that's going to represent the buyer, though, right? And then you have the listing agent, and the old model was the listing agent would then pay the selling agent. Well, now, based on this taking the MLS, people are starting to look at, well, the seller will pay the listing agent and the buyer will pay the buyer's agent. Once again, I covered the challenge that you as a homeowner would have. If you decide to stick with the old model and still pay that, it'll increase buyer interest. The property becomes more attractive to a broader range. Some buyers are going to start asking agents, I only want you to show me houses where the homeowner is going to cover your fee because we don't have enough money to close on a house, put 10% down, and pay your fee. So this will increase interest on your property. It'll be easier to finance it because it's a model that's been tried and tested and works. You'll have a faster sale, especially when you have other homeowners, if they choose not to pay the fee. That makes your house more attractive, means it'll sell faster. It'll open up to a wider network of agents who now see how committed you are and how serious you are. It'll simplify the negotiating process with commission costs off the table, because if it's not addressed when you hire your agent, when you list your house, if you don't address this and say, you know what, I'll cover their fee, what happens now is that selling agent, when they're working with the buyer and the buyer wants to buy the house, now they have to negotiate two things: the offer the buyer's making the homeowner plus the commission the agent needs to get paid with that offer. So now it's two things to consider, to talk about, and it complicates it just a bit. What I mean by enhance the seller reputation, it means you're telling to the community, hey, listen, I'm all in. I want to sell my house. I know agents work. They deserve to get paid. Don't worry about it. We got to cover it. That's going to be a real positive move for you as a homeowner. And again, I've already covered beating your competition. One question, too, people might ask, and this is going to depend on your agent and the state that you're in. What if you, the listing agent, sell the house to your buyer? So that's a common question. So if you hire an agent and that agent winds up also selling the house, not another agent from another company, here's how you should look at that. If, let's say, you're going to have a meal prepared for you, and that meal is the main course, plus you have dessert. Well, in the cooking industry, there's different types of chefs. There's sous chef, line chef, the main chef, the head chef, the pastry chef. So just in this example, let's say you've got the head chef and then you've got a pastry chef. The head chef is making the main course and the meal and the sides and all that stuff. Then you have the pastry chef doing what they're doing. There are two different responsibilities with two different skill sets. As a matter of fact, a pastry chef is more of a scientific chef, meaning that even the order and how you put the ingredients together impacts the quality. An interesting side note, if you're making cookies and you use room temperature butter versus melted butter, when you use the melted butter, those cookies will come out totally different, more flat, more crisp, and a little sweeter. If you put in the order that you put the ingredients in will impact the results. So what I'm trying to say is the approach to being a baker chef, a pastry chef, is very scientific. 2 plus 2 equals 4, and you don't mess with it. Whereas with a head chef, the main chef, cooking steaks and it's more nuances, it's more flavor, it's more flair, it's more, each dish is a little bit different than the previous one. I say this to you because in a real estate transaction, it's the same exact thing. Being a listing agent and marketing a house and promoting a house and showing the house and all of that is a different skill set than taking a buyer out, coaching the buyer, checking the buyer's paperwork, checking their finances, helping them get a mortgage, helping order the inspections. So they're two different skill sets. A lot of agents are great at both. But when you take the two and you put it together, now you've got one chef doing both sides. And I can tell you this, I don't know of any chef, if you tell a chef, the pastry chef just quit, so now you got to do both. I don't know any chef that's not going to say, well, you're going to have to pay me what you were paying him if I'm doing his job as well. Same thing goes for here. The commission covers two categories, two sides, two jobs, two people. And so if an agent has to do both, they need to get paid both. The last question I'll address here, and then I'll give some thoughts for buyers about the commission. Can I get in on this lawsuit settlement? It's very possible that you can. If you can, you'll be getting some postcard. If you're on the list of people that could qualify, you'll be getting a postcard, if you haven't already, in the mail, giving you instructions on how to participate. And you should do that. You should do it because the decision's been made. The seal, the judge still has to sign, seal, and deliver it, but it's not going to impact the real estate industry at this point. That ship has left. And so I would encourage you, you might as well get some of that money if you can, quite honestly. So it's a shame that this happened to the industry. The only people that really we've always heard this, is always the attorneys. And boy, there's never been a truer statement than on this one. Now, what I would like to say to the buyers right now, if you're thinking about buying real estate and you're questioning, well, this sounds like a worse deal for me than for the seller. And on the surface, it could look that way because there really isn't a change to the seller. It's not going to change commissions. There's not going to be this drastic cut like people are saying. It's really just how the marketing is going to be done. Some agents may change their business model where they'll only ask for the marketing side of the fee and not the selling side. So there are some things that be a little different. But yes, for you as a buyer thinking about real estate, it sounds a little worse, but I want to just help you with that. What I do want to first distinguish for you as a buyer, there's a concept of difference, a distinction between a customer and a client. So a customer is that person that walks into a place of business to buy something, right? So they buy a car, they buy furniture, they buy an appliance. Now, when you go into a store to buy an appliance, for example, that sales professional in the store is going to help you make that purchase and da-da-da. But that salesperson is not committed to you like you're a client. They don't have a legal fiduciary responsibility to look out for your interests. That salesperson is committed to basically one thing, and that's the sale, not to the customer. Customer service is important. You want business to come back to you. You want to treat customers the right way, but the commitment is to the sale, not to the customer. Now, when you're a client, that's totally different. When you're a client, there's an actual legal responsibility that the professional has to you. So, for example, when you hire an attorney, you tell things to your attorney, it's in confidence. They can't share that with other people. That attorney has to look out for your best interest ahead of their own. Same thing with these other businesses, and real estate agents are the same way. You have a choice as a buyer to work with a buyer. And again, this depends on your state. So make sure you check with the agent. Your agent will explain this, what the laws are in your state. They have to, it's part of the law nationwide. But it's very possible that in your state that you're looking to buy a house, when you walk into a real estate office, you're a customer, you're not a client. And when you're not a client, There's certain things that an agent can't do for you depending on the state. When you're a customer, the agent can't advise you on the offer to make. They can't give you that advice. They can't, when writing the offer and negotiating, they're really not negotiating for you. They're just presenting. They're kind of clerking, meaning that their commitment is not to help you get the best house for the cheapest amount of money and yada, yada. Their job is to either the transaction or even worse, to the homeowner, to make sure that you pay the most money for the house to benefit their client, because legally they have a fiduciary responsibility to that. So this is why in some respects, this settlement is a great thing for you, because you should never go unrepresented as a buyer. You should interview agents just like you would anything else. If you were going to hire an attorney, you would interview a few. If you were going to go in for major surgery, I would hope you would get a second opinion and interview surgeons. When it comes to your most important purchase, real estate, you should interview a few agents and find out what they'll do for you. What do they charge? What is their fee? What is their job description? And when you find that agent that works for you, go from being a customer now to a client and hire them to represent your best interest. Now, how do they get paid? Well, in this new real estate reality, one option, which you're not going to like, but I'll give you some other options, is to cut a check in that amount. I'm going to predict that 95% of the time that's not what's going to happen, because we do have some other options. The other option is that the seller may pay your agent, but you won't know before really making the offer because it's not being advertised. So what might happen is that seller has already talked to the agent and saying, we're going to make sure that the buyer's agent's paid. So you have no problem there. The other option is that you can actually include it into your offer. Instead of you cutting the check, if the homeowner wasn't offering it, you can just talk to your agent and they'll put it as part of the negotiation. And in that, there's seller's concession. There's other ways to make the numbers work. So you've got three options. Two are most likely and are the best. So this is why, once again, as a buyer, it's really important that you interview agents and you find that agent that you feel best about, because that agent, when you find that skilled, talented agent, they will put a deal together for you that works for you financially and works for the seller. Well, I hope that this video helped clarify and answer some questions, and I'm sure there's a lot more. These are just the highlights that I wanted to get in this recording, and hopefully make a difference in your life and in the industry by clearing up some of this stuff. Even though my job is to coach real estate professionals, if you have any questions, you can, however you might have seen this, you can reach out to me. My website is darrylspeaks.com, DARRYL speaks.com, and my contact information is there for my office, and that's it. The last thing I'm going to say to the civilians, to buyers and sellers out there, real estate agents perhaps don't always get the best rap or the best interpretation by folks. But I will tell you this, it's not easy to get into this business, and it's even harder to stay in it. If it was easy, everybody would do it, and they don't. But most agents have a real commitment to making a difference with you, the civilian, to help you navigate what there is in real estate and to help you find the house that works for you and to help sell your house. So hopefully what will come out of this judgment is there'll be a bit more transparency on behind the scenes on how how hard they work, so that way people such as yourself can appreciate and understand it more. Because I think if you understand it more as a homeowner or as a buyer, then you'll probably respect that agent more, and you'll see that, wow, they work really, really hard for not as much money as we all thought. So anyway, thank you. God bless you. And as I always like to say, don't forget to keep smiling. All right.